Okay, so ANZ Seeds of Renewal 2023. This is the 21st year of this grant program, so it's a long-standing grant program. I'd firstly like to kind of just acknowledge on behalf of both FRRR and ANZ, the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia. I'm coming to you from Yuin country in New South Wales, and I'm sure all of you coming from across remote regional and rural Australia have reason to be grateful for the custodianship of Indigenous Australians. Today we're going to, I'll do a brief chat on FRRR in case you're not familiar with FRRR, and also ANZ and their relationship to this grant program, and then go through the specifics of the grant program itself. At the end of that, I'll stop and we can have a bit of a chat about any questions that are really specific to the grant program. Then we go into another section that is more specifically around grant seeking tips. So if you're an experienced grant writer or, don't need that, feel free to, leave after you've kind of got your questions with regards to this specific grant program, but otherwise hang around and there's always room for more questions at the end. If you'd like to put questions in the chat while this is going on, that's great, because then we can check in on those when we have that break, and we can check all the questions then. So a little bit about FRRR. Okay, FRRR is the only national organisation that is dedicated to supporting remote, rural and regional Australia through grant funding. We connect government, private and individual donors to create funding opportunities that will support the vitality of the regions. We have 3 key focus areas in our current strategy, which is on people, place, disaster resilience and climate solutions. So the grants that are available through FRRR are really broad with regards to how they can actually support communities to grow and strengthen. The partnership with ANZ, as I said, has been going for 21 years. We work with them to create a partnership that both aligns with our purpose, but also their own purpose, which is around environment, social and governance as their key focus areas. And this is reflected in regards to ensuring that there's financial wellbeing in community, that we are promoting and supporting environmental sustainability initiatives, and also trying to improve the availability of suitable and affordable housing options. As I said, it's a 20-year partnership, and through this, as a national program, it means we can reach far and wide across Australia. It allows, not just charitable organisations to apply, but all not-for-profits through FRRR's unique tax status. We've donated over $55 million since inception with regards to this program. Program's open now, and it will close at 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 10th of August. There's $250,000 available for distributing, and we have grants up to the value of $15,000. There's no particular priority with regards to states or anything like that. There's very clear alignment with regards to improving environmental sustainability, financial wellbeing, access to housing, and a fourth category, projects that help communities thrive, is there to invite innovative projects that are really whole of community focused. If we look at improving environmental sustainability, the type of projects that we're interested in seeing are ones that will educate local communities on environmental sustainability, or alternatively improve environmental standards through a project. You could be supporting or accelerating the adoption of better environmental practices, or encouraging community participation. This is a great example of a past successful project, which was done in Queensland, in Warwick, with the Condamine Landcare Group. They developed a community land care nursery. So the funding actually supported the greenhouse, which was set up on an existing land care site, and also supported their materials for automated irrigation, pots and potting benches. A really important part of the project was the employment of a project officer 3 hours a week for that year that allowed them to set up properly and establish the operations. The project's been really successful. They have a weekly crew of 3 to 6 nursery volunteers. And what was really lovely to hear was that this crew of volunteers is one of the great surprises of this nursery, because they have the skills and knowledge. It's meeting the needs of retired people and people that have got additional time and want to, do something for the community. It also provides, kind of a workforce for the future. Additionally, this nursery is now supplying plants to several community plantings around the area to improve local reserves. And it's been a participant in the training of trainees in Cert 2 conservation programs. So a great outcome for a $15,000 investment in a local community project. When we talk about improving financial wellbeing, we're looking at projects that will build financial knowledge, promote better financial behaviour and decision-making, support job readiness, or improve money management skills. Financial literacy is a challenge with regards to people's ability to understand how to manage banking or bills, or even greater kind of things like superannuation, etc. And definitely for job readiness, it's really important for people who are going into the workforce to understand how they're going to manage their wages going forward. This is a project, Realising Every Dream, Moneymates. It was in Central West New South Wales, and it supported school leavers with a disability to transition to employment through workshops. Once again, they employed a skilled financial professional to upskill those young people. And also one of the important things was that those young people were being supported to become mentors to their peers. And as a result, over 20 participants were trained. It went into 3 communities. And it was seen that they retained the information and were actually able to present to their peers effectively, which is a great outcome. When we talk about access to housing, this can often be a challenging theme just because housing is such a big issue. But what we're really looking to support is any initiatives that will support those who are actually experiencing or at risk of homelessness. Also improving the situation for people with a disability regarding their access to community facilities, or improving the accommodation facilities for people living with a disability. So there are 2 angles in regards to how you might approach a project for this theme. What we see here was that in, I think this was in Gunnedah, there was not enough crisis accommodation, and funding was provided to support additional crisis accommodation for 12 months. Now, we are always looking for sustainable projects through this program, and I think what's really important to understand is that by providing this crisis accommodation, it enabled the organisation itself to connect appropriately with people and then engage them more in their other programs. So it's really addressing that vulnerability of people experiencing or at risk of long-term homelessness. Finally, as I said, with projects that help communities thrive, we're really going back to the key tenets of the program, where the project, will support vibrant communities that are diverse and inclusive. So creating strong social capital through a project where everyone can participate. And also, as it's a big theme, sustainable communities. Communities are looking at new ways to do things and that can deliver, demonstrable medium to long-term economic benefits. This was a project from last year. The Rex Theatre had been closed for a couple of years due to COVID. Activities had just really calmed down that committee and its ability to work. So this application was for them to revitalise the site and function as a community progress hub through the first initiative being actually developing a strategic plan. So they worked with the board to confirm the vision and purpose and the scope of activities that they would support. And then they went to the 4 surrounding communities and managed the engagement to actually draft that strategy, and then published it and launched it to the community with a commitment to actually delivering it on it. If you want to look at other projects and see if there's anything similar to what you're doing, I encourage you to go to our website and have a look at past recipients. That's just on the program webpage, just to see what else has been funded in these areas. With regards to this program and the eligibility criteria, as I said, not-for-profit organisations are all eligible with or without DGR1 endorsement. If you don't have DGR1 status, you do require either an incorporation certificate or an ABN, and just call us if you're not sure. This program doesn't fund primary and secondary schools or tertiary institutions. If you can be an organisation that is working with a school, say on an environmental project or something like that, but yourself as the primary organisation must be a not-for-profit, and they could be one of your stakeholders in the project. So just considering anything around that. Similarly, local, state or federal government projects can't be funded through this. There must be a charitable purpose and offer clear public benefit. You only can apply once per grant round, and projects must benefit remote, rural or regional Australia. You're probably aware, if you are familiar with FRRR, we have several grant programs going on at the moment. If you are applying to other grant programs, such as Strengthening Rural Communities, for another project, that's fine. There's no limitation. It's just one application per grant program. Once again, on eligibility criteria, individuals, sole traders, private or commercial businesses cannot apply. The organisation must be a legal entity. You are required to submit financial documentation, so please look at the guidelines to ensure you provide the appropriate financial documentation. If you have received a grant from FRRR in the last 7 years, you need to have completed an acquittal on that, or still be delivering that project. So if your report is due in August or September, at the end of that, that's fine. You can still apply for this program and be accepted and acquitted through that. Your project must be happening in the period once this grant is announced. So that's going to be November 2023 through to November 2024. So just keep in mind that we're not, you can't commence a project and then retrospectively have it funded. Also, please ensure that you do include all the required documents. This is a popular program, and it's very unlikely we'll be able to actually follow you up for missing documentation once your application has been submitted. Just really important, what cannot be funded, ongoing core organisational operational costs. You will have seen in those example projects that we do often pay wages to support projects. As long as those wages are specific to that project, that's perfectly eligible. But we won't pay the wage of the CEO that is always, managing the organisation that's running the program as an example of a regular wage. Something really important, sport, recreation and social activities are not considered charitable activities. So it's really important, particularly with sporting activities, that you ensure that you really demonstrate the charitable outcomes. Just examples of where eligibility comes in is where clubs are asking for new sporting equipment or upgrades to facilities that directly benefit those members of the club who are participating in the sport and then therefore advance that sport, because that's actually not a charitable outcome. So just please give us a call if you've got any questions and your project is anyway kind of considering that. Obviously things like overseas travel and overseas projects. This is about local community-led projects. Prizes, gifts, trophies or awards. If you are looking at an event and you want to offer prizes or anything like that, please consider getting some sponsorship from somewhere else. We won't be able to fund it through this program. You can still have it as a big part of your bigger project, but funding can't go towards that. We don't fund political organisations or religious or sectarian organisations that are involved in purely religious sectarian activities. We appreciate that many organisations of that nature do broader community work and so encourage any project that aligns with that. One says, again, schools, including tertiary institutions, local, state or federal government, and also projects solely focused on animal welfare. We appreciate that sometimes, the involvement of animals in either environmental projects or even possibly from companionship and for mental health can happen, but the benefit must be to the people and not solely focused on the animal welfare. Really simple. What makes a project successful? Alignment with the focus areas. This is obviously, what's up front in this project. So really make sure that you're kind of considering which tenet it hits. We do want to see it encouraging participation of marginalised community members and trying to be as inclusive as possible. That ability to build local capacity with increased resources, volunteers or equipment is always really a positive thing to see. And also, how we can support that community to better thrive as a result of the project. A really strong application often has a letter of support from either the local stakeholders or beneficiaries to demonstrate the need in the relationships. What can lead to an unsuccessful project is that it's just an existing opportunity that's being extended rather than bringing in new opportunities. So we are looking for some levels of innovation, I guess, in regards to this, rather than just perpetuating what's always been done. Aligns with the guidelines. So once again, anything that goes outside then kind of causes greater doubt in assessors' minds. Really try to be very clear on the need or opportunity that you're actually meeting through the project and provide key detail. Don't let us be guessing with regards to, what's actually going to happen at certain stages of a project. Be really specific on what you need and why, so that we have a sense of the priorities. And on the side, a lack of engagement with target beneficiaries or key stakeholders. As I said, we are really interested in community-led projects here, where we get applications from organisations that aren't based in the community. We really need to understand that the community is engaged with that organisation and is very much on board with having that project delivered there. Also, just making sure, have you provided enough information? It is a competitive grant round, so make sure you give us as much detail as you can when you're telling your story. Things like who owns the building if you want to install solar panels? Is there a planning permit for the disabled toilet? How are you going to recruit participants for your program? Have you consulted with local Indigenous owners with regards to environmental projects? Who's doing the environmental planning? Do they actually have the expertise? Is the project really important to the community? That's once again about the stakeholders demonstrating their support. And is the project charitable? Who will actually benefit directly from its delivery? With regards to this, when we assess, we look at how well it meets the criteria and delivers for the community. It is assessed by me, foremost, with the support of my project officer. And then I work with an advisory program committee comprising ANZ volunteers. And finally, we develop recommendations, which we take to the FRRR CEO, who, under delegated authority of our board, then will consider and approve the projects for grant funding. Finally, just in regards to that, if you're successful, you'll receive an email with regards to that, how to access the funds, how to promote your project, and this will be announced on the FRRR website. In some communities, ANZ may organise a local award recognition event. If you're unsuccessful, you also will be advised via email, and there's an opportunity to seek feedback. So we do encourage people to contact us and have a chat about their project, to understand how they could strengthen it in the future, and if there's any other funding opportunities that they might be able to pursue. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute and just ask if there's any questions. So if anyone wants to unmute themselves, and I'm just going to... Sorry, if you spoke then I couldn't hear you, so you might have to turn up your... Have we got any questions?
I've got a question.
Yes, Shelley?
We're a very new organisation. Just going through the ACNC registration process.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of research and a lot of work to get to that point, but we're not fully, we're not established in a way that we can provide you with years of financials or that kind of thing. Is that going to be an obstacle?
No, read the guidelines, and what you'll see is that you need to provide us, if I don't know how new you are, but you need to provide us with bank statements for how long you've been operating. If you can't provide a 12-month financial statement, audited statement. So we often do have very new organisations that are, 3 to 4 months old, applying for projects, because obviously you need funding to get things done. So, just make sure that you can give us, I suppose, things about your legal status that can verify your not-for-profit status. They're the most important things, and demonstrate, how you're set up to manage the finance as well.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
That's okay. There doesn't seem to be anything else in the chat. Look, I'll go on to the tips for successful grant writing then. And once again, there's time for questions at the end. Okay, so just more broadly, I suppose, with regards to grants and applying, and I think it's interesting, that we've got someone here that's a very new organisation. Do consider, all your different options when you're looking for funding partners. And that includes seeing if there's anyone in your local community that might be doing a similar project that you could actually partner with. Crowdfunding is interesting, and I think it can work from a local perspective, depending on the amount of funding you're looking for. Philanthropy, one of the reasons FRRR exists is we know that philanthropy is a little bit more difficult to access in rural, regional and remote Australia, but often there's local foundations as well. Local businesses and also government, particularly local government, can be an important funder. Please understand that we are very open to funding projects that have funding coming from other sources or even that you might be applying for funds at the same time you're applying for this application to complete your project. So none of that kind of is a barrier to your application. If you've got a $30,000 project and you're trying to raise the other $15,000 at the same time as you're writing this grant application, that's perfectly fine. You just need to indicate that you've got a bit of a plan by putting down who those potential funders might be. Writing a grant is very much that, we've got a great idea and going through all those steps. From an assessment perspective, sometimes you just find that it's not really clear, either what people are going to do or why they're doing it. So this is often a really good kind of, process to go through to make sure you're ticking off everything that might be involved in actually realising your project. With regards to solving an issue or creating an opportunity, we really suggest that, you consider the evidence and also the catalyst that's actually brought this project to pass. Often, we know there's environmental challenges. We also know there's opportunities sometimes where, something closes down in a community and people decide that they will start something themselves. If you're doing any research, local surveys, even things like Facebook are really good ways to show how the project came about, what people were asking for or how much people were supporting a particular idea that came up. Who will be involved is something that's really important to understand, particularly if you've got a complex project or something even that's involving mental health or, something, even a simple workshop, I guess, of, a working bee. It's really about, what kind of environmental treatment are you using? How are you involved with the local Indigenous? Who are your partners and supporters? Who are your volunteers? And your participants and the beneficiaries, how will the space be used at the end? It's lovely to see that picture of what that means for the community and how community-owned it is. Breaking it down, just those stages of sometimes it's very difficult when you're reading an application to actually understand the timeline of when something might be happening. So just be really clear with regards to how you put that down and think about it as a story, once upon a time and then, the happy ending at the end. So always assume we don't know about your community or where it is. So really providing those key details in regards to where your project might be in relation to possibly the local school or an aged care facility or anything that also relates to your beneficiaries or participants is always good to kind of talk about. Understanding what resources you have and what resources you need. Sometimes we will be questioning, they're asking for this. Do they actually have, how are they doing the excavation? There doesn't seem to be any idea of, and it could be that you've got a pro bono service that is coming in and doing some, ground movement for you before you actually get in there. So just being able to kind of explain to us all the relationships and how it will come together. When it will happen, obviously I said that's very important with regards to this project actually starting in November. Having said that, if it's the second stage of a project, it's fine to say we're in stage 1 at the moment. If we get this funding, this is what stage 2 looks like. And also where it will happen, particularly when it comes to understanding who owns the property on where the activity or the program might be taking place, and how that's being scheduled in. We have a template in FRRR's online grant application that, as I said, asks you about your income for the grant request with regards to how much funds you're requesting, your organisation, if you're actually putting some funding in, and any other funders that are making up the total project income. Expenditure with regards to what are the items that that project income will be going towards. As I said, try to really let us know what the funding is for the grant request, just in case it is something that's a prize or something that's actually not a charitable item. That's fine. Your organisation might be paying for that, or you might have a sponsor that's going to pay for that. So if you can kind of let us know what this funding will pay for on that expenditure, and also provide any quotes or rationale. I appreciate that there are some challenges sometimes with regards to getting quotes from tradespeople or even consultants to do speaking. So the rationale for why you think, a speaker is going to cost $2,000 could be, we've spoken to someone who's had them before and this is how much they charge, just in case you can't get actually a formal quote from them before you need to apply. So just thinking logically about how you present that information to us. Also, something if you're buying lots of things from Officeworks or a big garden supply shed, just do an online order or get them, and then do a screen print of it and send that through. That's your quote for that. So just making those things quite easy, but also easy for us to understand the logic. We really like to see the in-kind, how many volunteers are actually participating and how many hours are they putting in. That often adds thousands of dollars to a project, and it's something that's really highly valued. Additionally, any donated goods or donated services, information like that also shows us how invested and how well you're being supported by your community or local businesses. So it's really important information that goes into the budget that can actually inform us of how this project will work. So writing your application, obviously the grant's open now. It closes on Thursday, the 10th of August. So, if you haven't started, I would start an application and allow plenty of time to gather your information. Do read the guidelines so that you understand the requirements for things like financial documentation, and then also any other information that might be required regarding your not-for-profit status. Answer all the questions, and as I said, attach all the supporting documents, including any letters or survey information that you might have that supports what you're doing. So this is always something that's easy to go back to. Use clear, simple language, use facts and provide evidence where possible. So even bigger statistical information related to any employment possibly issues in your community, or what actual issue you're trying to address, anything to back that up. Please spell out acronyms because, once again, if they're local, we may not understand what you're referring to. Tell us your story as an organisation and then how it relates to the project itself. Be specific when answering questions. Please don't, you don't have to write long answers, just quite clear answers. Bullet points are always great. And once again, make it clear how you're going to use the requested funds. If you want some more information or some examples of grant seeker resources, our website has really good information under there. So you can look at videos on what other projects have done. Things like measuring success is also a good thing to think of if it's something you'll be able to do on your project over that 12 months. Sponsorships and how to support those, project planning, there really is a lot of information there. So once again, 10th of August, this grant closes and it will be announced mid-November. If you're not subscribed to FRRR's monthly newsletter, I do advise you to subscribe. We have a sorting hat to help you find potential other grants where you might be eligible, and also explore our grant seeker resources. Okay, so I'm just going to escape and just get any feedback from you in regards to this presentation, if it's been useful, and any other questions that you've got.
I'm happy to start and say I think it's been extremely useful. It's one of the best ones I've been to, actually. I've been to many of these and it was very, very clear.
Oh, good.
So
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you very much. Yeah, look, we try to keep things really clear and simple, and and also I really encourage you to give FRRR a call when you're writing your grant application if you come up against any challenges or any questions, because we've got great people on the phones, and yeah, they have lots of experience with projects, so they can often help you if you've got some challenges in working out how to do something. Yes, Lou.
This has been my first meetings, and I totally agree with Shelley. It has been invaluable. We've been a fly by the seat of our pants organisation getting ready for this year, but what you have told me makes so much sense, and it's precise, concise, and certainly gives me all the stepping stones to what we need to do. So I'm very grateful. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. We will send you out a copy of the presentation as well.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, Dan. I was just going to let you know that Dan has popped a question in the chat. His mic's not working.
Yep. Oh, that's okay, Dan. No worries. Is there a desirable ratio breakdown of a budget? I don't think there's any specific ratio, Dan. Do you know what I mean? I think it's actually going to be unique to your project, as long as you're demonstrating that you've engaged the appropriate stakeholders and given us any rationale with regards to that. Yeah. I'm just going to check, Fran. There are a few questions in. I'll come back to you in a minute, Lou. I'm just going to check this chat. Can grantees build in ANZ involvement? Yes, they can, Fran. If you want to talk to your local ANZ branch and chat to them, you're more than welcome, and then you can refer to that in your application if you're going to involve them. It's not mandatory, but you definitely can if you want to work with them. Lou? Yes. Just have to unmute.
Done. I'm in the midst of looking at insurance for our activity, and it asks you how many you anticipate attending. And because it's an inaugural event, that's really a difficult question.
I would suggest, do you know what I mean, look at the venue you're deciding on and those kind of things, and just, you know, because I don't know enough about the actual project itself, but I would just guesstimate, do you know what I mean, that? Yeah, and I mean, with insurance, you'd probably be looking at public liability, which I think, you know, it's probably best to overestimate rather than underestimate, but not to a great extent. Okay, well, there doesn't seem to be any other questions. I wish you all luck. And once again, I encourage you to just get in touch if you want to chat about the project. So I'll say goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was terrific.
Great.
Thank you.